welcome everyone to the weekly Animal Rights Show.
Weekly.
We used to, didn't we? Can you remember those days? We used to do it weekly. I used to do my podcast on the Animal Rights Show weekly. And I have no idea how that happened.
No.
It's easy to get out of it because I used to do sometimes the Animal Rights Show, then we would do a Still Alive, then I'd do a Vegan Time Tunnel, all in the same week, and something else as well, I think. So yeah, ridiculous. So anyway, welcome everybody to the less than weekly show.
It's more about quality than quantity.
Yes.
No pressure. No pressure.
What was that? The thing they used to say in the tailoring industry? It's kind of like feel the quality, not the something. Can you remember that phrase? No, never mind. Shouldn't have brought that up. No. Right. Shall we do some hellos then?
Yes.
Hello. Go on then. Roger, you do it.
Okay. First up was for Jennifer from the gym. So we're getting very high tech now from the gym. And we got Siri.
Sirius in Tucson.
Yeah, Tucson. Yeah. So
I think this is Deb. This is Deb.
Oh, is it?
Is this? Everyone's got different names on here tonight. You're keeping us on our toes, you lot.
I wonder if it's something to do with our system.
I don't know, but night. Yeah.
So we've got Kate, we've got Deb,
we've got there's Carolyn here,
Jennifer.
Yeah.
Tim is Tim, apparently.
Oh, we got Tim. Philip. Hello. We got John Cow tag.
We've all right. So there's Emmy there. Look. So everybody is different. What's going on? We've got Tim Barford. Hi, Tim. We've got Philip from
New York. Sorry, Philip. Apologies.
All right. I think that's the only one that I recognise. Joanna Tech that's the usual one, I think. So I think maybe, I don't know, there's been a few updates lately.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is.
So yeah.
What a lovely bunch of people though. We've got Linda just joined as well.
Yeah, and there's Linda. And that's the same. So there you go. Interesting.
Doesn't take a lot.
It must be just a glitch or something. So anyway, welcome everybody, as I said for the third time now. I did promise Wendy on Facebook that you're going to tell them a moving story.
A moving story. I know. I'm sure everyone will be just riveted. Basically, I've moved house. That's what Roger was talking about. I have moved with our little mini sanctuary.
That's why I wanted to bridge it, because it must have been difficult, especially with Dylan. I mean, does he take well to change, or?
On the first day, well, the difficult thing was actually the logistics of moving, when you can't have anyone in the house moving the stuff from the old house, and you can't have him in the new house where people are coming to bring the stuff. So Dylan has to free float in a van in the road so that he's not in contact with any humans.
Are you serious? That's what you had to do?
Deadly serious. Yeah, he had to be out and just supervised.
So he was traveling around in a van for most of the day.
He was traveling around, and it didn't even happen the day it was meant to happen. So it ran over to 2 days. So we were nearly homeless for a night. And the person dealing with the move was saying to us, "You're going to have to go and stay in a hotel." And I was saying, "No, you literally do not understand my life. Like, I cannot take Dylan to a hotel, even if I could take the cat folks, the fishes, the cat people, Dylan. There's no way." And it was just like, no, we're going to be homeless. What's going to happen? But eventually that didn't happen. But it was very, very interesting logistically to try to get a new temporary place for the fishes to go so that we could shift them over. And then obviously Dylan free floating around and then moving 3 very unwilling cats Who didn't want to go. So that was all fun and games, and they were all
that was one of the reasons why actually this show is a bit later than it was going to be, because you had problems getting on the internet, didn't you, or something?
Yeah, I didn't have any internet for a while. That was apparently I was told that would go really smoothly. Unplug it here, plug in there, ma'am, it'll all be fine. I was like, are you sure? Yes, ma'am. I said, I don't think it's going to go like that. It didn't go like that. So no, I didn't have any internet as well. So it's just,
it never does. It never does.
Yeah, no. they always say it, and it never happens, does it?
I know. It's just, you kind of almost just expect it now, don't you? If it's going to go wrong, it will. It's like called Sod's Law. But the first day Dylan was literally frantically just looking around every room, just sniffing everywhere, and just kind of like, what's happened? But it was funny because the cat people, they reminded me, like in films where you get like SAS or people, and they're going backs to the wall with a gun in their hand, and they're against the wall, and then around the corner like that. Oh. That's what the cats were doing. Every room was like, come on, let's just sneak around this corner quick. Oh, who's there? And it was just so funny to watch how they explored.
How did they hold the guns?
They're very clever like that. But no, it's just that kind of just the difference in the difference in how they explored was really interesting.
You didn't get any marking of territory, I take it.
There might have been. I haven't noticed. But then when you've got lots of different different dogs and cats, and you kind of lose track. It's like the people at the vets always say, "Are they pooing normally? Are they peeing?" And you just go, "Someone is. I don't know.
Who knows?
Who knows?"
No, they do it in a very eccentric way.
Yeah.
So anyway, okay, I suppose we better start the show. So we've got a series of news items and stuff, and a couple of videos to show everyone. Wanted also to mention this. So if you remember John and Jane, the authors of Change Makers. So I think we did two shows recently, didn't we, with them? Yeah. So apparently they're up for an award, so we're going to take the credit for that. Okay. So that was all down to us, nothing to do with anything else.
No, that's brilliant news, isn't it? Brilliant news.
Yes, indeed. Now, also, I wanted to. I've been. We're going to come on to my Substack possibly a little later, but I've been updating some of my old essays and stuff, and so I had a look at my MA, and I was having a look, see whether it was worth kind of updating it or not. And this is a section from almost like the lit review in a way, because I did a section about social movement theory and about how social movements react to the general socio-economic conditions. And I do think this is actually something that happens. And I think that in terms of people suggesting that maybe, veganism is in a little bit of a slump at the moment, or, peaks and troughs and all this kind of stuff, that I would put it down myself to things like the fact that we're operating now in a world where there's people like Trump and his Gestapo and all the rest of it. You in England, Wendy, you've got the prospect of Farage becoming the prime minister, right? And so then you've got Musk flying around the world, kind of funding lots of far right stuff. And it does say here, in particular, because it's Brandon and Boggs, but both Carl Brandon, Carl Boggs, saying they've been affected by recent resurgence of conservative politics. So they were talking about kind of Thatcher and Major and all that at the time. But I really do think that this is something that does have an effect on social movements, because it's kind of like the world is going in the opposite direction to what we would want in terms of fundamental values. Yeah. So I just wondered what you kind of made of that, really.
I totally agree with that. And it's what's interesting, I listened to something the other day, actually, and it wasn't vegan related as such, but it was, in fact, I think I sent it to you both, but I'm not sure if you could have watched it because it was through the BBC, but someone talking about lots of different things to do with the resurgence of like right wing and fascism and all of these things. And one thing that he said that struck me was how something that he admires in the right, and is definitely not a right wing person, he's definitely way more left. This person who was speaking, I can't remember his name actually offhand, but he was saying how he admires how often on the right people will have these very strange collaborations where, you know, you'll have the MAGA is made up of so many different contingencies of factions of you know, like the Christian right, and then you've got you know, the tech bros, and you've got all these kind of different factions who will collaborate, and sometimes they seem like they wouldn't really be on the same side, or they have very different values in some ways, but yet they come together for, you know, for a common goal. And he said often on the left it just becomes so sort of much more kind of, we make ourselves too small. And this is, I think, what we've talked about before about the movement, is we become too purist in a way, and then with the purity we become very small and divided. And I think that speaks to this as well in a way, in the left, by being progressive, often naturally we are very, you know, we're fighting for certain principles and values, and in seeking those values we kind of tend to push away maybe others who we could collaborate with, whereas maybe in the right that doesn't happen so much. And so maybe that also affects this, is what you're talking about, on another level.
Noah?
Nella might not be able to see that very well.
Oh, on the phone. Okay.
On the screen.
Actually, though,
yeah.
In relation to what you just said, there is, funny enough, an example right now. Whereas Trump has made some very kind of misogynistic statements lately, calling female photographers kind of rude words, including the R word, and he was kind of pulled up on that. And some of the commentators are saying, how come these Christian supporters of Trump don't object to that kind of thing, right? You know, and so, you know, it's like you can get tripped up quicker in the left, but then again, that's because presumably maybe the right don't have so many fundamental kind of issues like that, which would kind of create a debate or a problem and all that. And so I can see the point, but I can also see why it would be. Now, what's going on with Nella? We've lost the signal, have we?
I don't know. But also, it's interesting what you were saying just before we came on, Roger, about you're going on. Sorry, I've forgotten his name. Jerry Kelly's show to talk, and you're going to talk about this. And just going back to what you said about how veganism, and you were saying to him how veganism is the biggest peace movement, and he was saying previously when you went on before how we need that more than ever, and you were going to point that out again, because that it's funny, because I think we've spoken about that before in terms of like the pioneers, and how in context of when they were, you know, creating and building the start of the vegan movement at the time coming out of the war, and how, you know, how much resilience and courage they must have had to do that at that time. And yet we look now and say, oh, we couldn't, you know, it's much more difficult now because of the, you know, everything shifting to the right and the landscape that we're in and all of that stuff. But actually, in a way, you were right. It's like we need these values more than ever right now. We need vegan values of peace, justice, respect, and all of that in, you know, in this horrific landscape that we're in.
Well, I suppose you could say that the pioneers of our movement certainly witnessed things moving to the right, rather, when
absolutely.
when they were around. Okay, Carolyn, since you wrote this, there was surgeons. Oh, was there? It's kind of like it's kind of peaks and troughs, swings and roundabouts type thing. And often in social movement theory, they will talk about movements going into periods of latency where they're still there. And if you're in a movement, and this is an interesting thing, if you're in a movement, not that much seems to have changed, because there's still quite a lot of activity. There's still quite a lot of social social media kind of posts, that kind of stuff. But from the point of view of the general public, you've kind of disappeared a little bit. Things have calmed down. At the moment, people are saying that there's a great difficulty getting people to come out on demos and stuff. And so that makes us less visible to the public. So I suppose in terms of what we do, within the vegan bubble, to put it that way, not a lot will change, but it's kind of like everything just kind of subsided a little bit in terms of, journalists or, whatever. And again, there's kind of a linear thing, and every now and again something will happen. And then, at the moment we've got some prominent court cases, so that tends to bring things back as well. So, in that sense, swings and roundabouts, I would say.
Also, what it makes me think about as well. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Nilla.
No, go ahead, Wendy.
No, go ahead. I've spoke loads. You're quiet.
I was thinking, did you think that the people in the movement feel more deflated or disheartened lately? Because I have this feeling that people continue to do things, continue to protest, but it's like we don't even expect anything to change. And on the other hand, we've seen a lot of big protests, especially about Palestine. So people who would never protest, they took to the streets. So it's like getting, conflicting messages from what's happening right now. What's your take on that?
Yeah, there was a big Palestine. I think it's once a month in Dublin. There was one last Saturday when we were out doing our stuff. So they actually go past us once a month, which is pretty groovy. And it's interesting. I tell you one thing that it does raise as a talking point is a lot of the, let's call them anti-intersectional people. They're complaining that there's a lot of focus on Palestine, and they're saying, what about the other genocides going on? What about all the other wars where there's even more people being killed and this kind of stuff? And it does raise the point, because they use it in a pejorative. Oh, these people just go to where they're told, kind of thing, and protest against that. But it does raise the issue of how things do become the prominent issue at any given time. But you could probably say that all the time, like the Vietnam War, civil rights, the feminist movement, this kind of stuff. You could say, well, suddenly there's a big kind of concentrated interest, and so it is actually an interesting question. Where does that come from? How does it kind of manifest? And does that mean that other things are being neglected? Because there are other famines, obviously, and there are other bombings and everything, and yet for a while everything has been focused on Palestine. He says, we're in the cafe, So this is interesting, isn't it? Raises those kind of issues.
Yeah, and another thing.
Go ahead, Wendy.
We've got a little time. No, we've got a little time delay there, I think, Nella. Possibly just a little one.
Oh,
did you want to come back? Because
let me try to fix that. Go ahead.
Yes,
I'm trying to fix the delay.
it was just making me think about how, you know, you often get that pushback from non-vegans when you're, you know, especially if you're doing anything like outreach or just having conversations generally about, you know, oh, what about, you know, we were talking like this earlier, actually, what aboutism, you know, what about the, you know, the people in Gaza, or what about the people in Sudan? What about the children who are being trafficked? What about, you know, all people always come out with these things. Why are you not advocating for these human issues when you're out advocating for fellow animals? And I just wonder if that is a bit more prevalent now as well, with so many of these atrocities and the genocide and you know, just everything the way it is. And you know, in North America, you've got ICE bundling people into vans, you know, in broad daylight, in the middle, you know, middle of the street. And you just got just so many horrific things going on that are just so, you know, you look back maybe 5 or so years, you wouldn't, it just seems like everything's bubbling up. And I just wonder, is that making it a little bit more difficult for advocates who are doing outreach, going back to Nella's point about people feeling maybe a little bit more despondent, because you might be getting much more pushback at the moment, because it's like, well, the world is such a horrific place right now. How can we even contemplate thinking about animals? Because look at all this going on, all these wars and all this, you know, horrific stuff. I just wonder if anyone's come across that.
Well, I think it's around all the time. And in fact, Donald Watson said, he predicted that. He was saying that, you know, as the vegan social movement was being formed, he was saying in one of the early vegan news, might have been number 2, kind of expect a bit of pushback on that, you know, kind of like, this is not the time to be concentrating on them, kind of thing. You know, we've still got rationing, we've still got this, we've still got bodies coming back from Europe, you know, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah. Trying to keep up with it. It's a very active chat. I'm trying to keep up with it, and I'm really bad at it. So,
oh, is it? Because it is. Mine is frozen, so I wasn't seeing it all, which is a shame because I've got my powers back.
Yeah, Wendy's got our powers back, folks.
Got my powers back.
Yeah, which means that I'm not the only one who can put. You know, when you first did that, remember we used to see the same thing and we both click it and it
cancel each other out.
Yeah. Okay, so I've got a public service message which is only about a few seconds long, but I need to probably start it again. So let me add this and then stop it.
Everybody says don't see this unpolitical.
Right, there we go. I want to get the bit where he says our scene.
Everybody says don't see this unpolitical. That means that we're open for right-wing bands, that we tolerate nationalist ideas in our street. We allow homophobic people, misogynic people, racists in our scene. And I don't like that. I love metal. I love being here. I love everybody of you. Let's have the best weekend of this year. And if you have the chance to change something, fucking do it. This is Death Metal Punks. All right.
Yeah, so there.
I was expecting Roger to get down with a bit of headbanging then.
Oh, did you? Well, yeah. Well, my days of headbanging not only are over, but they didn't really begin, if I'm honest about it. You know the bit where it goes ding and it goes quiet for a couple of seconds. That was a text coming in from Tim Barford. So if you're still in the chat, Tim, that bit is your fault. I was screen recording something, and it's really irritating when you screen record something on your phone. If you get a message coming in, it will still appear and then be recorded as well. And you also get the ding, which is a bit of a pain. Right, next up then. Well, as soon as Emmy's in the house, then this is my Substack, which I've just kind of launched. And I'm only really kind of getting used to it. I know you can't see it very well, but that's actually a full screen there. So I think this is a little bit like TikTok, kind of probably designed mainly for phones, I would think. So I've got to do something. I kind of threw it together, if I'm honest about it. So I just found this weird kind of, I threw that up thinking I'll change that later on. I never got around to it yet.
I like that picture.
You like that picture?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I do.
Yeah, but I look about 85, don't I?
My eyesight, I can't tell. I just think you look really happy. You just look really happy.
All right. Yeah. I thought you were going to say you always look 85. So this is the latest thing which I this is I think I call you can restack, which means you can repost. So this is my podcast with Emmy, which came out today.
Yay!
Yeah. So so it got a big build up. So I hope it's good. I haven't heard it yet. But I hope it's going to live up to its build up. Kind of. This might change the way you look at veganism and this kind of stuff. And then you said you liked the turkey one, Wendy.
Yeah, I did actually. Well, I've liked all of them.
Too.
I've liked all of them, and particularly liked that one just because of obviously the context of the Thanksgiving and all of that stuff.
And this one, this actually is a still from a film about the Hillgrove thing, and I always thought it was really weird because I got a really serious injury, and yet I didn't go as a demonstrator, which is really weird to me because I've been to so many as a demonstrator, and then I go as an academic, and I get my face battered in.
Well, hang on, I'm putting this up, Roger, because I know you won't put this up, so I'm putting it up. It's so good. Roger is fire.
Oh, right.
Excellent.
Okay.
Can't wait. Looking forward to listening to that one.
Absolutely. So I've got to cool down. Right. So no, I'm just messing with my computers here. So sorry about that, folks. Let me remove that. Okay. Okay. Now we're actually going to move to the substance of things now, funny enough. So
everyone subscribe to Roger's Substack, please, because he's putting out a lot of great stuff on there.
Putting out a lot of stuff. So we didn't sort this bit out at the end. So do we go for the cows first, or do we go for Sandra?
Go cows.
The cows. Okay. So we've got a PowerPoint, folks. There is a trigger warning on a couple of dots. One in particular. So I think Nella, you found this particular story from the Animal Reader, which
Yes.
I don't even think I know what that is actually.
A couple of weeks ago, late at night. Can you hear me now?
It's getting very glitchy actually. Getting very yeah. It was fine before.
What about now?
Yeah.
Yes, that's weird. What if I turn my video off? Is it better now?
I think it's the same.
Do you think it is better?
No, because you can't see your lovely face.
I think it seems to be pretty okay now, whether you got the video on or not.
Okay. Okay. Let's try like this for a while. I was saying it was late at night a couple of weeks ago, or maybe early in the morning, and I was scrolling on my phone when I came across an Animal Reader post about a few thousand cows being stuck in a ship for it was back then for 60 days. And then as I was reading the article, I saw that the author wrote that the ship was about to enter Greek jurisdiction. And at that point, I became really, stressed and agitated. It was early in the morning. I was trying to see who else was up because I thought if the ship is here tomorrow, we need to do something. We need to organize a demonstration. We need to do something. So I found a couple of people awake that late at night. And the thing is, we could not think what we should ask for if we had to organize a demo, because we needed to ask for something effective and realistic. No world peace, no animal liberation, something that would really, relieve the suffering of these individuals in the sea. We never found out if the ship entered Greek jurisdiction because tracking devices show that the ship was in the Turkish jurisdiction, and then the tracking signal went off, and there was another article about that by the Animal Reader. The author was wondering if it was turned off, or if there was a glitch, or what the purpose of this tracking silence. But the reason I shared this with you is because at that moment, no one knew what we should demand.
Yeah, the latest news.
And then our asks became very modest, and we start saying maybe we should.
Oh, I think have we lost Nella sound?
Yes, these are the latest news.
Yeah. Sorry, no. No, you carry on. I think there's this kind of delay which is kind of confusing me a little bit. But you carry on now.
Yes, and as I was saying, we didn't know what to ask. Maybe for food and water, maybe for authorities to get in the ship and see, assess the condition of these individuals and remove. How could anyone realistically ask anything about a few thousand cows and expect that something good would come out of this? So, to the best of our knowledge, the ship never came to a Greek port, and the trip continued for these individuals, and they are still in that ship, and they are still traveling. The ship is going back to Uruguay, I think. So my question is, as a movement, we don't like single issue campaigns because they are not about rights, they are not about veganism, they are focused on one thing only. But at that moment, that night, when I was thinking about it, I wished for such a campaign.
Yeah, well, it does really raise lots of interesting movement issues, doesn't it? Because it says here that there's almost 3,000, and half of them are pregnant. And then in the next slide, it says that animal welfare organizations are going to say that if they're sent back, as it were, which they have been now, and apparently the latest news from Compassion in Wolf Farming is that they've been offloaded into Libya now. Okay, and so what we've got essentially is a problem, because these individuals are seen as property, and then it's a question of the transfer of property from one set of owners, presumably to the ship, and then from the ship to another set of owners at the destination, and all this. And it's really kind of tragic on all kinds of levels. The bit there in the third paragraph, these vessels are not prepared to transport animals. It doesn't mean that they're not willing to. It means that they're not really capable, because apparently this particular ship was designed to transport cars. Apparently, it was a vehicle transporter, and it hasn't really been updated because, industry and politicians, the exporters themselves, farmers will say, oh, they're ships which are decked out, for the cows' welfare and all this kind of stuff. Well, these were 3,000 individuals that were just thrown onto a boat, which I think is about 25 years old as well. So we're talking about, it might say that in the next one. Because, yeah, so this was the trigger warning, folks. So this is the state of some of the cows, because they've been on there for so long, which unusually long. So I'll move on from that. And so
many of them, they have given birth while in the sheep, and many of the young ones have died, apparently.
Yes, we've had all these problems because calves are born on the ship, which probably would happen anyway, but not that many of them. And so some have gone missing, some can't be found. Also, they're crammed together so closely that they can't really be monitored. So if they give birth, I mean, if they did it at night, for example, then their newborns are really in grave danger, because their mums might not even be able to turn to wash them and all that kind of stuff and all that. And then with all the other ones going, there's a video that I saw today, which was a transport ship, not connected to this one, but it was caught in a storm.
Yeah.
And the cows were kind of being slung about all over the deck and everything. Now, newborn calves are going to get trampled and all kind, or even separated from their mums, right? And so, in that sense, it's pretty horrendous. So there is genuine welfare issues to this. I've always said it with live exports. There's genuine welfare thing, which is why groups like welfare groups like Compassion Animal Farming, they want the cows to be killed in the place where they were produced, and so they've got that slogan, on the hook, not on the hoof, right? So I mean, is that a solution? Other people have been saying on the news that they should at least go onto the boat and kill them all, right? Because their suffering has gone on for too long and all this kind of stuff. But then again, you're talking about other people's profits then, and you probably end up getting sued if you did that. So I imagine the vets are very constrained in terms of what they can do, even in terms of what might be regarded as the best that they can do. They might not be physically allowed to do it.
From what I read, the cost of euthanasia cannot be covered by the sheep owner or the owner of the individual. So because welfare groups asked for that, for at least for the animals to be at least euthanized, but even that was not possible.
No, so did you come up with a solution to your own question? I mean, what if you could get a demo down there? What would you ask for?
Very basic thing, and like food or water, or the authorities to go on the ship and remove the dead ones, or vets to offer some relief. But even as we were discussing about it, we knew that nothing could happen.
Yeah, the one part of this article which really irritated me is the bottom, not the separate one, but the bottom part of the big one, animal rights organizations, because they've been talking about animal welfare organizations, which is right, because all the ones that were involved, Compassion Animal Farming, etc., their animal welfare thing, but then they switched to this confusion that they always say animal rights organizations and an animal cruelty emergency and a biosecurity risk. I suppose a biosecurity risk is that an animal rights issue? But it kind of irritates me that they don't seem to be able to do a single news item without perpetuating the confusion between rights and welfare. And so nowhere does it say anybody going, well, fundamentally what we're dealing with here are kind of massive rights violations on a routine scale. Nobody has said that throughout this story as far as I can see. And I've seen, news items, videos, a couple more news, and nobody makes an animal rights point in any of the coverage. And that at least would have changed it for the better for me anyway. The fact that, at least you tell the people what the fundamental problem is, which is the fact that they're being used in the first place, that they're items of property. And the
I
reason
think that the Animal Safe movement, the organization, organized protests in Uruguay, and I'm not sure about the exact demands or phrasing, but it was animal right based. That's my understanding, at least, because they thought that since the whole thing, the companies are based in Uruguay, and the animals in Uruguay protested about it, organized demonstrations.
It's a question again. I mean, that's why I was interested in your thing about what would the ask be. I mean, if we were organizing a demo to do with this issue, what is our ask? I think it'd be very difficult for us to come up with anything that we would think is reasonable.
I think if because I've just I've been thinking a lot about the whole, since you put this story up, Nella, about, and I know you mentioned it as well, like that difficulty of rights versus welfare when we polarize them and make them completely separate. And I suppose this is when you see like the practicality of well-being is actually really important. And I just was reading that article from Patrice Jones I sent to you two as well, about this very issue. And I think from the ecofeminist perspective, it's definitely about trying to look at each case in context. So rather than just pitting rights versus welfare, it's like looking at what is happening in each context to those particular individuals in that situation, and how are you helping those real individuals, rather than pitting real animals against maybe future animals that we might be able to help somewhere in the distance and things like that. So I guess this is one of those cases where the important thing is what's really happening and actually happening to those real physical individuals in that situation. And I suppose that's where it becomes very difficult if kind of, going by our rightist, abolitionist or whatever you might want to call it, principles, is sometimes those principles we can't make them fit that situation, which is what you're saying there, isn't it, Roger? Is like, what do we even ask for? Because
but even welfare doesn't fit, because I mean, there's 3,000 individuals for a start, and like what would you even begin to ask would be done about them? And then the real problem is fundamentally an animal rights problem, because one of the things that makes their welfare worse is their property status, right? I mean, these are items of property, which is probably the very reason why they've been shunted around and kept on the boat and all the rest of it. Because, I mean, some people might say, well, just take them back off the boat, right? But then what with 3,000 individuals? Because presumably at the port, there's just going to be some kind of leerage kind of thing, like at the entrance of a slaughterhouse. So conditions, at least they wouldn't be at sea, even if it's on the dock, as it were. So is that a welfare benefit? It's not as though the farmers, because presumably lots and lots of individual farmers will have delivered to the port, right, individually or collectively in lorries. It's not as though they could go back to their farm, because they will have started the breeding process again. Might not even be space for them now. And so the fundamental problem still remains an animal rights problem.
And the strange thing is as well, like I think originally they... Oh, we've got that delay again. So originally the problem was that most of the cows had, I think it was like paperwork that was, you know, that matched and was kind of acceptable, but there were about under 500, I think, that weren't. But because of those that didn't have matching papers or something like that, I can't remember the exact detail, but then they wouldn't take any of the cows from the ship, which kind of seems a bit strange, because I think they were originally saying at least take the ones who have got their, you know, papers all in order and things like that, but they wouldn't. So then it does make you wonder why. And actually, yes, someone somewhere is going to be losing a lot of money here. So even from that species' point of view and the commodification and the profit, it's like you can't even understand why this situation is even happening in the first place.
It's such a hard thing for us to talk about, because you go, they wouldn't even do that. What you mean? They wouldn't take them off the boat and slit their throat?
No, it's just horrendous, isn't it? It's.
I mean, this is a quintessential case of when you try to think about these issues, which have admittedly got welfare components to it. The fundamental answer is animal rights, but the fundamental problem is the fact that they're there at all, that we're dealing with items of property, that we're dealing with human supremacists and speciesists, who, I mean, right at the end of that thing, they were talking about, well, we're not quite sure what's going to happen. You know, who's going to take charge? Who's going to do what they're quibbling about is, what do we do with these items of property?
Yeah. And there will be people along the way who do care to some extent about those individuals, obviously to a lesser extent than many of us. But you know, I think there are vets, and they were saying it's quite difficult for the crew, and they were saying there are vets there who are trying to do things, but this situation is too difficult and too horrendous. But I mean, I can't even begin to imagine what those poor individuals are going through, pregnant, giving birth in those conditions, and it's just heartbreaking, isn't it?
Well, this is an atrocity, and you can't regulate atrocities, can you? You know, it's kind of like, you know, it's like saying, you know, let's regulate the way that the children of Gaza have been bombed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's appalling.
Well, Nella, since you brought us down with this story, do you want to make a final statement about it?
I will, but it's not an optimistic one, because I read that there is another ship leaving Uruguay in a few days to do the same trip, to travel from Uruguay to Turkey, carrying a few thousand cows again. So, and I hope, actually, that these cows, you know, arrive at their destination earlier and they get murdered earlier, you know, so they are not suffering in a ship at the sea. There is nothing to wish for, nothing to hope for in such situations.
I know, and you wonder what would the cow. I think we've got that delay again. Sorry,
the only thing one could wish for is for the, you know, for the live exports to stop, and I think this is what the demonstrators in Uruguay asked for their government to stop live exports. The only thing one could wish for is that, but it's not happening anytime soon. So.
Yeah, but Nella, what if it did stop? What then?
Then we had to continue demonstrating and protesting about murdering the cows in any other way. I mean,
I get that.
And we should not.
You just said that there's another ship getting ready to go. So yeah, I mean, they probably can't. You know, it's like a production line for them. So it's not as though I mean, they're not prepared to pause it while they sort out the welfare problem. No. But the question there is, could they pause it? Is it even possible with all the contracts and all this kind of stuff that they've got on, all these legal contracts about farmers deliver, you know, ships take off, all that, that's all legal requirements, right? So, you know, ending live exports might not really in the real world mean that much.
Well, they've got to be willing in the first place, which probably they're not. I think where there's a will, there's a way. It's a true saying, isn't it? If they were willing to, if there was the volition to do it, then they could do it because they'd make it happen. But wherever there's no will to do it, then it will just keep going business as usual. That's the truth of that. You know, in
the article you sent, Wendy, by Patrice, she was saying we must listen to the animals, and we should take account of what they're saying. But when, you know, don't put us on this boat, don't put us on this transport, don't separate me from my calves back at the farm, don't artificially inseminate me. And so we can all say, well, you know, we can try to take, as it were, our fellow animals' perspective. But the ultimate thing is that we've got to stop them being used.
Or bred in the first place.
Yeah. Well, that's part of their use in this context, right?
Yeah. And also, if you were to know what each one of those cows on that ship wanted, they might all want very different things. They might all have, like, you know, if you speak to humans in an atrocity like that, you know, you probably get very different viewpoints. Of some would be like, just kill me now, throw me overboard. Some would be desperate to escape and seek liberation. So, you know, there'd be so many different desires even within the individuals within that ship, wouldn't there? It's hard to know exactly what they would want, but you know for sure that they wouldn't want to be there in that situation. But yeah, it's very difficult to know what to do as a movement. And I suppose this is where, in a way, you go, okay, go ahead, compassion in world farming. Do you know what I mean? Go ahead and pull the strings that you can pull, do the things you can do to that extent. Let the welfareists do some welfare.
Yeah, Patrice says in the article, at the very least, don't slag them off.
Don't stop them doing what they're out to do. Yeah.
But to me, that doesn't mean that we need to join in either and divert ourselves from the fundamental wrong. So that's another conundrum then. Because, you know, as soon as you divert vegans to helping welfare campaigns, they're not doing vegan campaigns unless there's a big kind of increase in the quality of the claims making, which could make it more kind of animal rights, vegan friendly and all that kind of stuff in terms of what you say about the situation, right? So I could see you could get an alliance situation where okay, well, we'll come down to your demo, but we're going to be making vegan animal rights points when we talk to the press and that kind of stuff. You know, we're not going to, you know, do your welfare claims making. You're free to do that yourself because you're a welfare group, but we're not going to do that. That might work.
I've done that when I've been to demos actually for against live transportation, and I've actually had animal rights placards and slogans and conversations with people there alongside other animal rights groups, alongside the welfare groups as well. And it does, I think that obviously it kind of gets blended in reality, because people will just put animal rights under an umbrella or animal welfare under the same umbrella, like they always do, like they did in the article as well. But on an individual level, you can obviously use different language, have different conversations in that situation at the same event. And I think, yeah, I think and that's something, yeah, Patrice says in that article, and goes back to what the guy was saying on that podcast that I listened to about the collaboration of groups with the same goal. And he was saying how on the left, because, you know, we become very purist and separate ourselves out because we don't quite agree with everything, is we don't have the impact. And I guess this speaks to this as well. If we do have alliances, even with welfare groups, even though we go, like, we're rightists, we don't really, you know, we don't agree with the use. However, we have a similar goal that we don't want these ships to be going and these cows to be suffering like this. Then I guess there are opportunities for alliances and collaborations there, which maybe if we try and stay in our little niches that we miss out on. So I think it, yeah, could be important.
So if a welfare group comes up and says, would you support the idea of killing them here and sending their bodies over frozen?
I think something that struck me from the article as well, and I quite like this, I think it's to remember that there's a difference between protesting or advocating against inhumane practices, and there's a difference between that and advocating for humane exploitation. And I think it might seem nuanced in some cases, but I think there's a big difference. So does that make sense, what I said? Did I say it right? So we're advocating against inhumane practices, but we're not advocating for humane exploitation, which of course maybe some of the welfare organizations are. So I think if you keep that in mind, and that is your fundamental value, like, you're not going to advocate for anything that is humane exploitation. So maybe in that case, that wouldn't be something you could be pro, I would say, maybe, because you're not because that's being part of the oppression and the exploitation. Or you can say there is you're advocating against the humane practices that are taking place. And maybe just, yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, but it's still problematic, isn't it? Because, you know, they go, well, okay, we don't like that idea. And then they go, well, there aren't 3,000 sanctuary places. What else? Plus the fact these individuals belong to someone already, you know, and they're gonna have a say in the matter. Then you've got all those legal contracts I mentioned. So, you know, that's why it's a messy business. Welfare is a messy business because you're almost like having to try to work your way through a system which is based on exploitation and just try to make a good fist of it. Well, how do you do that?
And I think that's why you have to judge it on each case, in each situation, rather than making just a blanket, this is what we always do every time. It's like, and again, that goes back to the eco-feminist principles of context and place, and looking at each individual situation and assessing as closely as you can what's best for those individuals at the time. And you can't always see that ahead. No.
Now, Nella, I'm conscious of the fact that because of this delay we've got, you're not able to jump in. So, is there anything you want to say?
No, I think you have covered, and the people in the comments, everything that went through my mind when I first became aware of the situation. And I don't know, really nothing to say. And yeah, I think that there is no solution to these problems other than, stopping this particular kind of exploitation. And even better, stop exploitation in general.
Yeah, it's a shitty situation. I think we'd all agree with that one. Anyway.
Interesting comment from from Carolyn. Here in Canada, there's a group called Animal Justice that is calling on Sobeys to stock only cage-free chickens' eggs and dead chickens. I definitely wouldn't support such a campaign. I guess that speaks to what we were talking about before, in that, yeah, you can maybe help advocate for some things, but not for others, and that would, and I would, yeah, agree with that as well.
We did get that news before we came on air, didn't we? That Sweden apparently, as of next year, are banning the killing of chicks in the egg industry. The male chicks are not allowed to be killed. What they'll do then is decide when they're no longer chicks, and then kill them, presumably. But it's because I think
they're sexing them earlier, as what they're doing.
So the chicks are not going to be in the egg, the male chicks.
Yes, if I just bring up that article, actually, I'm pretty sure that is what it said in there. Where is it? Yes, using in ovo sexing. So they're going to sex them while they're still in the egg. So the chicks will not, I guess, hatch. They're going to probably discard, obviously, of the eggs earlier. And therefore, the male chicks won't be born, and therefore they won't be killed in the ways that they are now.
So killed in the egg then. I guess you'd get arguments about sentience then, I suppose. But, another messy thing. Now we're on the hour, so what we're going to do, folks? Do we do our last item or do we leave it?
I can stay for a little bit longer, but that's if others can.
What's Nella's vote? That's a yes, right? Okay. So we're gonna show you a video.
Hello. I always have little tech glitches, don't we?
Yeah, we did. Yeah. So this is an interview that Sandra did. Sandra Higgins of Eden Farmed Animal Sanctuary and also Go Vegan World. And it was to do with, well, the presenter will explain what it is, and we'll have a little word at the end of it.
And there is a little content warning as well on the story.
Yes, I guess there is, yeah. That's right. I'll put this on full screen, I think, folks.
And the National Parks and Wildlife Service are investigating after a stag was beheaded in the parklands of Newbridge House and Gardens in Donabate in North County Dublin. The incident, also described as a wildlife crime, occurred in the early hours of the morning and has shocked staff of the visitors. The stag was part of a herd of 16 Irish red deer that have lived in North Dublin parkland for more than 20 years, and authorities are appealing for any information to help identify those responsible. Sandra Higgins is director of Go Vegan World, but she's from Eden Farmed Animal Sanctuary. Sandra, good morning.
Good morning, Jacqueline. Nice to speak to you again.
Good morning. Obviously, a lot of people like ourselves are appalled with this. Have you ever heard of an incident before like this?
Yes, I'm afraid I hear about this on a daily basis. I mean, there's outrage over this because it was a beautiful, magnificent, free-living animal. But over 100 million animals are decapitated and dismembered in Ireland every year. So I hear about this every day. Every time you go out into a supermarket or you pass a butcher shop and you see eggs and wool and leather and fish and flesh, that's somebody who felt exactly the way that deer did, who was capable of suffering pain, who valued their life, and who was killed, decapitated and dismembered.
Well, there you go. People have maybe a different philosophical view of that, and let's not get into it, but people see a difference between sort of an animal semi-wild, just minding its own business, and animals that are reared for food. So I know there's an argument there. I know you feel passionate about it, but can we just deal with the the nature of something like a stag, which is just left there minding its own business and interfered with.
So what is the difference, Declan? Why
I'm honestly not going to do it. Look at.
So the people are outraged because this was an act of unnecessary violence against an animal who concealed, who probably suffered, who was killed unnecessarily. There is no difference between the killing of the deer and the killing of the animals that we consume on a daily basis. Let me just say as well, Declan, there's no difference between the killing of that deer and the legal killing of that deer if the people who had killed him had a licence. It is legal. Let your listeners be very clear. It's legal in Ireland to kill red deer as long as you have a licence. Just the same as it's legal to go into a supermarket and buy a piece of beef or fish or the body of a chicken or an egg or a dairy product. So I would go back to my question, why avoid it? Because the premise, the philosophy, as you say, is the same.
But it's not a lot of people's mind that it's the same, but I accept your point of view that you could be, there's a difference in a lot of people's mind of rearing animals for food. But there's a grotesque sorry, Sandra, there's a grotesque nature to a trophy, which is, it's alleged this, of perhaps just killing a deer, cutting off its head and putting it up on a wall. And people see an actual difference in that. And you're dragging me into the discussion.
Because it's unnecessary. In the same way that killing any animal is unnecessary. Nobody needs to consume other animals, nobody needs to wear them, and nobody needs to collect their body parts as trophies. They're all unnecessary. And you're right, it is grotesque, it's violent, people are shocked, they're right to be shocked. But it's very important to ask why we're shocked. Why are we shocked? We're shocked because it's violent, we're shocked because it's unnecessary. So we have a moral duty to ask ourselves, why are we not shocked about the violent, unnecessary killing of 100 million animals in Ireland every year, 90 billion animals worldwide every year. We need to stop. We need to stop this.
Okay, that's Sandra Higgins there, Director of Go Vegan World and Eden Farmed Animal Sanctuary.
I was muted. We did make some points before this, and it's borne out really, Wendy and Nella, in the comments already, in the sense that we was wondering about the difference between a vegan reaction to this, which is going to be overwhelmingly positive, and a non-vegan reaction. And would there be a difference, in that sense? In some senses, did Sandra live up to the pushy vegan stereotype from the public point of view, and maybe going a bit easier at the beginning, maybe about the contextualization, because the guy didn't like it and he didn't want it. And so from a spokesperson's point of view, that's an issue, because he says, let's not get into it. That was one of the first things he said. And then he says, can't we just, right? But Sandra wouldn't let him off the hook, right?
Off the hook?
Off the hook, yeah. The clothes peg.
The clothes peg. That's yeah. Yeah, no, it's interesting, isn't it? Because obviously we're all here as vegans cheering Sandra on, and it's like, that's what people need to hear. That's what people need to hear. And then when you kind of zoom out and take perspective and think, if I'm sitting here as a non-vegan, then a non-vegan is almost anticipating, the pushy vegan, the preachy vegan, and you can't ask a vegan anything without they bring it round to what about everyone else and all of that. So you just, I mean, some people might hear that and it might be exactly what they want to hear, and I guess others are going to be completely just close off, like he did in a way, because he just wasn't. And I think he knows Sandra, doesn't he? She's been on there quite a few times, so he knows her values and she's very passionate about it. So he probably, is open to that himself. But I think he was trying to just get more of an angle on this particular individual murder, and obviously she wasn't really getting into that. So, but it just, I just was curious about how non-vegans would hear that, and whether it would be off-putting, and whether maybe sometimes it is that, like, not the gotcha stuff, but the open conversation and drawing people in that might bring others into, like, considering a different perspective. Although some people are never going to consider their vegan perspective, let's be honest. But it's just different ways of hearing things or sending that message, isn't it? It was just interesting to think about it from that perspective.
Noah?
But I think, though, that Sandra did what she was supposed to do, because the only way for that guy to be happy with her would be for Sandra to comment only the atrocity of this particular murder, and not, draw any parallels with every other, murder that's happening in slaughterhouses every day, and it's, it's not seen as such. So, what would be her role in that radio show if she abstained from doing the exact points, making the exact points she made? Because almost everyone would agree that killing a deer in a park, it's atrocious. You would have to try hard to find someone that believes that this beheading of the deer is okay. So what would be her role if she didn't make the point she did? I think she had to do it, even if she came across for some as a pushy vegan, because for some others maybe this was a starting point for a different kind of thinking. See another perspective. Actually think that there are deers that are being bred for their flesh, for example. So why am I so upset about the killing of this particular deer? No vegans, and this interviewer wouldn't be happy. I believe he wouldn't be happy with anything else than Sandra commenting solely on this incident without making any other.
Which is interesting, really, because I wonder why he invited Sandra on, who's a staunch vegan and animal advocate, runs a sanctuary. Why Sandra, if he only wanted the comment on the deer? Does that make sense? Like, why not a different person, someone who's maybe known more for wildlife, or an animal welfarist or something like that? It seems that if he knows Sandra, he knows he's going to get that from Sandra. So it seems, in a way, an odd choice if he doesn't want that kind of reaction, doesn't it? In a way.
And if he didn't want that, which he clearly didn't, because he started kind of objecting straight away. And we've got some interesting comments to respond to, but it is like he knew what he was going to get from Sandra. And so if he didn't want that, then you've got the thing about, well, why this particular spokesperson then? Mm-hmm. Or you ring her up first and go, right, we're going to do this. And what I was thinking of is doing it this way, right? To try and kind of get some kind of consensus about how it would kind of go. And I would think that maybe a compromise would be, what if can we talk initially about this individual? And that might have been enough, because what I suspect, because the interview was 4 minutes long, I suspect that the guy got a bit pissed off, and the interview was curtailed sooner than it might have ordinarily gone on for a bit longer. Like news items in Irish things, they're often 10 minutes, they're often 15 minutes. This was 4, and he wasn't getting He tried a few times. He wasn't getting what he wanted. And so it's interesting because Sandra couldn't give him what he wanted. At the same time, was there a meet him halfway place?
Well, Emmy's saying that the show would have vetted what Sandra was going to say, and it's standard practice. And she's been on shows like that, so the host knew it was coming. He's playing to the drama of it. So that's interesting. If that was happening.
I mean, this guy has interviewed Sandra before.
Yeah, I've heard her on there quite a few times actually, and sometimes they have been quite long interviews, and sometimes he's had two people on, like almost Sandra with someone else debating each other. So that's it's interesting.
So Nella, do you think Sandra could have given an inch, or was she right to do what she did?
I think she was right to do what she did, because especially when you have a live interview, you never know when they are going to, to cut you off, what they are going to play, if they are going, to change the context afterwards. So you have to say quickly everything you need to say to put the message out there. So I think that she did fine. She wouldn't have done anything else.
No. I want to push back a little bit on something you said, Nella. You said that nobody would think this was okay to do. But if you go to loads and loads of pubs, just about every manor house you can think of, and there's going to be stags' heads on the wall. So somebody thinks it's okay to do.
Yes,
and so even then,
I haven't thought about that.
And even then, I think even, like they say, like there's always a gangster's code. And I guess there's almost like a hunter's code as well. Like, I think even some hunters, though, would be appalled by this because it's not done in the expected way. Because I think people have their lines and their understanding of how things are done. Like we have our categories of functionality for fellow animals, and it's like, well, no, we eat those ones. No, we have those ones as pets.
Yeah, you know what the hunters are going to say? Oh, the venison was wasted.
Possibly, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, there would be some, and I guess you're going to get different reactions from different people. But I think there still would be some people who'd be horrified, even with that. But this just goes to the complete, the complexity of how people put things into boxes or compartmentalize things and accept some things and not others. And we're very hypocritical, very much double standards on so many things, and inconsistent across the board. That's the thing, isn't it? Humans are very inconsistent. And I think that's obviously that's the point what Sandra was trying to make, isn't it? She's saying, well, hang on a minute, you're appalled at this, but what about all of this? You're just being inconsistent. But for most people, they'll just go, what? Because inconsistency is the norm. We're socialized to be inconsistent about fellow animals and their functionality and how they're treated, and when it's okay to chop their heads off and when it isn't.
We've zipped it for you, Noah.
Yes. I wanted to comment on the grotesque, comment, because it seems that especially non-vegans are worried about the grotesque element. It happened to me a couple of weeks ago. I found the body of a dead sea turtle. So I called the relative organizations to inform them, and they knew about it. And I asked if they would collect the body to perform an autopsy, and they said no need to do that. So I asked what was going to happen to this individual's body, and they said the municipality is going to collect it. And there was a seagull nibbling at the corpse. And they said, could you remove it, since you are at the beach, could you remove the body so the birds don't go to eat this individual? And I said, why? I mean, this was my honest reaction. Why, if you are not to perform an autopsy, and if we are not to bury the individual, or cremate or do something about it in a ritualistic way, why don't we let seagulls to do what they are supposed to do? And he was appalled. He reacted as if I was, I had suggested to kill an individual, and he said because it is grotesque. That was the only argument he had about the situation. So I was wondering what is about and I'm almost sure he was not a vegan, about the grotesque element and the aesthetic reasons of or the aesthetic side of a crime. What do you think about it?
I think you might be able to translate that to visible, because they don't think, non-vegans don't think slaughterhouses are grotesque. They kind of think that if I think anything about this, it's probably not going to like where I get to, and so the solution to that is not think about it. But they then comfort themselves with, but it's regulated, and everything is organized, and there's vets there, and blah blah blah, all the stuff that non-vegans do, because they've got this incredibly idealized picture in their head of what a slaughterhouse is. And the chances are the person you were talking to was the same. And so the idea of a being being kind of just pecked on a beach probably did come over as a bit grotesque, but it was way too visible, I think, even in the mind's eye, perhaps.
Okay.
And it's interesting that they would have more compassion for the individual once they're dead as well, when there's probably very little compassion for many other individuals when they're alive. But again, it's the expectation, isn't it? And that's just not what happens. It's not what we do. And I think at the time when we were chatting about this at the time, and I think I was saying it seems like a very fitting place for that individual to go back into the sea, actually. Because I'm sure, I think I was saying, for me, put me under a tree and let me go back to the earth. And it was like, I'm sure that individual would probably say that's my home. That's where I want to go. And so it just seems how people just have those different perspectives and much more respect for that individual in death. But yeah. And again, I think people just have different ways of seeing free living animals, don't they? Because it's like there's some kind of sacredness to that freedom, whereas the fellow animals that we breed for a particular purpose, it's like, well, that's what they're meant for. That's what we do this for. They're particularly purposefully brought here for us. And there seems to be a big disconnect between those things, I think, for most people.
It doesn't completely fit, though, does it? Because if you ask people, you poll people on their favorite animal, most of them are carnivores. So they're kind of doing what they do, and the seagulls in this case would be doing what they would do, as Nella said. And so it just goes to show that a kind of speciesist mindset is really all over the place, But I do think there's more consistency in it. That's why I think that understanding that people orient towards our fellow animals in a functionalist way means that they do think they're being consistent, because they're responding to what they are for in all the different cases, right? And so, so food animals are for being made into food, and so they do think that they're being morally consistent.
No, yeah, it doesn't compute when you start challenging that, like with Sandra. For many people listening to that, it would be That doesn't make any sense to me. Why are you comparing a deer, a stag out in the grounds of some park with a pig that's going to be my lunch?
Because
That it just wouldn't register, would it? That comparison.
they've been living in the park apparently for 20 years as well, and so that's not what they're for, you know, in that sense. Which is quite. I did actually have a quick look at the radio station's Facebook page, thinking I might be able to get some, you know, what did the public make of it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it wasn't there, which is a bit this thing, because that would be interesting to see how the public would have reacted, because I imagine the comments would have been pretty. Well, I don't know how the comments would be. You know, positive, negative, in between. Oh, you know, these goddamn vegans. You know, or oh, that's an interesting point. I'd never thought of it that way, which is what we'd want them to think.
That's what you'd hope for, yeah. But I think you're right. I think people are being consistent with the culture rather than with ethics. I think that's the thing, isn't it? We're challenging them ethically and morally, whereas culturally they're very consistent. Actually, much more than we are. We're very alienated from our culture.
Yeah, that's true.
And so they see us consistent because we're completely removed from how things are meant to be. Meant to be, like, obviously.
So Nella, do you want to come back and we'll shut up again?
No, I'm fine.
We need to get a little conch.
Yeah, we ought to. What they've got, like, the kind of stick that they pass around, don't they? We tried that once, didn't we? Remember? We pretended to when
Oh, yeah,
the talking stick.
The talking stick. Wasn't the talking stick your little pig?
I don't know. I don't
Yes.
know where he is. Well, Gary.
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 Oh, there he is.
I thought about Gary the other day because when I moved and I packed a box, I found Kermit. We used to have this strange thing with our little puppets.
Right. Well,
on that note,
where we can go with that. So
nowhere really.
No. Well, maybe in that case, we ought to thank everyone.
Yeah, thanks everyone. It's good to see you all.
Now,
I apologize for the sound delay, everyone. I know it was hard to listen to me talking.
No, it wasn't too bad actually. I think it was just the slight lag at times, wasn't it?
Well, that the sociology there, because the one thing that humans can't stand is a pregnant silence, and so we have the impulse to fill it.
Yes. Well, I think especially if you're on air as well, because you're thinking, well, people are sitting watching us. So then you're thinking, well, they're just sitting watching us being silent. So then you feel even more like, oh, quick, just jumping. Thank you, everyone. Smash a like.
I'm being quiet for Nella now.
No.
Go, Nella.
All right. Okay, folks. So thanks very much for sticking with us. And this has been.
Thank you, everyone.
It's longer than we planned. So thanks very much. And we might do one of these because I'll probably do my Christmas Day live stream. You know, I'm not sure if I can do 10 hours, but I've done 6-hour ones before, 8-hour ones before. So we might be able to get a still alive animal rights thing and a time tunnel.
I was wondering if you would do Christmas Day.
Yeah. So we might try and gear one of these up for Christmas Day. What do you think? Depends on our availability. You know.
Sounds good.
Anybody busy eating a turkey? Yeah, that was a tasteful joke to finish on. Right, people.
I think Roger needs a look.